Welcome to my latest YouTube video. My name is Rosenberg. I am the author of The Human Magnet Syndrome and the creator of the Codependency Cure. Today I am going to talk about a concept that I use quite often in my psychotherapy sessions, most notably my Codependency Cure, or what I call my self-love recovery treatment program. The concept is called taping the fake photo on the mirror trick. And I'm going to end this video with me reading a portion of my Human Magnet Syndrome book. I believe it's chapter 15, the last chapter, where I actually talk about the taped photo trick. So let me first explain what this is all about. SLDs, or codependents, they naturally and reflexively are attracted to and compelled to be in relationships with narcissists. And it's the same but reversed for a narcissist. That is the Human Magnet Syndrome, and you guys should know all about that by now. The SLDs fall in love with the narcissist because of what I call a relationship template. Now, and some of this is all repeat information, but you know about how opposites attract. You know, the magnet, the narcissist who is all selfish and needing and taking, is always going to fall in love with the SLD or the codependent who's giving, altruistic, and sacrificial. And how those two opposites fit perfectly, like the magnet. And the relationship template is responsible for chemistry. Again, all of this is talked about in my Human Magnet Syndrome book. In other words, the way that we were raised, our childhood, in which we were cared for or not cared for by our pathological narcissistic parent and our codependent other parent, created our conception, our ideas, our comfort level, our knowledge, and the whole wealth of experiences for what we think is normal for relationships. And if you are raised by a narcissist and a codependent, you're going to be the human doing versus the human being, or in other words, you're going to feel loved when you take care of someone, when someone needs you, when you can somehow sacrifice yourself for the need of others. And that coalesces into this relationship template, so that by the time that you become an adult and you start to get into adult romantic relationships, you're going to feel like any other adult. You're going to have this intuitive, reflexive experience of chemistry. And that is what feels right, what feels normal, and what feels attractive. Now, this video is not about that, but I just want to set up my concept. So you're going to feel attracted to narcissists because that's all you know. And you're going to feel like you can navigate that in the dark with your eyes closed. And you're going to feel like you have a purpose, a reason to like be in this relationship. And you won't feel like you'll be rejected. You won't feel insecure because you're fulfilling a role that you know is needed and works. And that is, in essence, the Human Magnet Syndrome dynamic that explains what chemistry is, and at the same time it explains what the relationship template is. So in these relationships, if you're an SLD or a codependent and you first meet and fall in love with a narcissist, you are, without knowing, are going to continue your oblivious nature, the fact that you don't know that your needs were not fulfilled, that you were never unconditionally loved, that you never were adored just for who you were. You are going to bring forward into your adult relationships this gaslit version of who you are. I call that a self-narrative, a gaslit self-narrative. Again, that's explained in my Human Magnet Syndrome book. Instead of having a healthy, non-obstructed, non-gaslit narrative that is based upon people in your life that love you, respect you, and care for you, this narrative that you learned about yourself, about your self-worth, your lovability, just who you are, is based upon what the narcissist needed you to be. And because you were the child in your family that figured out a way to mold yourself to be loved and cared for by your narcissistic parent, you adopted their version of what they needed you to be. In other words, for you to be a trophy child, the gift child, the lovable child, you had to somehow find a way to be that version of that child. And because a child's mind is so malleable and so vulnerable, you normally, as any child in that situation who's going to be a future SLD, you took your own version of yourself and replaced it with the one that your parents needed you to be, most notably the narcissist. So if you always wanted to be a track star and your narcissistic parent wanted you to be a musician, you would have somehow pushed down your athletic prowess, your dreams of sports and running, and you would have forced yourself to find joy in playing a musical instrument because you knew that's how you got the love from your parent. And over time, you would have seen yourself as let's say you were a guitarist. You would have seen yourself as a guitarist, and your self-esteem would have been built upon you being a guitarist. And you would try to be a really good guitarist, and you would have received conditional love, and that would have been your gaslit self-narrative. Because your true self-narrative, if you had what I would call normal parents, which are parents who make mistakes, who don't know always the right thing to do all the time, but parents who unconditionally love you, they would have embraced your dreams, tried to introduce some reality, but they would not have erased them. So I say that one example as wanting to be an athlete, but becoming a musician, because it represents many other facets of an SLD's childhood, of all of the things that they were inherently born to be or wanted to be, had to be sacrificed, because if they were going to be loved, respected, and cared for, they had to not only predict, but they had to somehow become the person that their parent wanted them to be. And that is, in the very, very condensed form, the explanation for the cause or the genesis of self-love deficit disorder or codependency. So by being able to dispose of your own dreams and beliefs and narratives, your own perceptions of what you want, and somehow take on the beliefs and perceptions of what another person wants and make them yours, and then enjoy the conditional love, because you don't really enjoy it per se, because in the same family you are in, you have witnessed to the other people, say another sibling, who could not mold or shape themselves into the prized child, the trophy child. Those children were the bad seeds. Those children were the disappointing children. So your brother or sister grew up not being able to get the conditional love, respect, or caring from the narcissistic parent. And they were treated exponentially more difficultly, terribly, and harmfully than you. By the way, that's the explanation for why in the same family, siblings, one will become an SLD adult and one will become a pathological narcissist. But that child could not adopt the narrative, could not mold their belief system, their likes and dislikes to that of the narcissist and get the narcissist parent to love them in return. So that explains the child that could not change their thinking and their beliefs into that the narcissist wanted, and therefore become loved. And of course, the explanation for how and why a person becomes a pathological narcissist. So what I'm getting to, or what I'm building up to, is that SLDs were children who were susceptible to being gaslit and brainwashed. Because all children need unconditional loving and respect and caring in order to develop into healthy adults. The absence of that freezes their healthy development and becomes the basis for future psychological problems, especially self-love deficit disorder, SLDD, or codependency. So the person who is an adult SLD comes into adulthood with this gaslit version of their personality, who they are, who they believe they want to be, the passions they have, the likes they have. They don't know are not really theirs. It's as if someone implanted a version of their personality into them and they accepted it and identified with it. So I came up with a metaphor, and I call it taping the fake photo on the mirror trick. And I'm going to read this to you at the end of this video. And it is a wonderful metaphor to explain how SLDs, especially SLDs who are in recovery, people who are working my self-love recovery treatment program, come to understand who they really are, what makes them happy, what makes them feel loved, what do they like, what they don't like. And they realize that they spent most of their life believing that their self-concept, their beliefs, their likes and dislikes, they believed that they were their own. But through this therapy process and through this explanation I'm giving to you on this video, I help them understand that it was implanted. It was through a form of gaslighting, a systematic indoctrination of someone else's beliefs or desires for what they needed you to believe in order to meet their narcissistic needs. So it's as if you have a mirror, and a mirror will always reflect, for the most part, the exact image that it is facing. If someone put a distorted photo, a photo that wasn't an attractive version of you, and they pasted it on the mirror, the trick, and they said, "This is you." You look at the mirror, and of course you think it's a mirror, and you see this distorted, unattractive, maybe ugly person. You're going to go, "Well, the mirror doesn't lie, that's me." And you're going to accept that you look that way. But you would not have known, because the secret, duplicitous, covert nature of gaslighting narcissists, they won't tell you what they're doing, because to do so, that would ruin their efforts to modify, change, and control your mental health, and for the purposes of meeting their narcissistic needs. So this fake photo on the mirror trick essentially is a simplistic way of understanding gaslighting, that someone taped a picture of you on a mirror, and you look at it and you believe that's you. And you never will question the mirror because you think it's a mirror. That is why in my self-love recovery treatment program, I will bring out this metaphor as a discussion point to understand what is and what is not the person, what is and what is not their likes or dislikes, who do they think they are, who do they think they are not. And if they were raised by pathological narcissists, like all SLDs were, and were gaslit in the way that normally causes SLDD, they won't know what they believe is love, or to be loved, to be liked, and to be appreciated. They'll only know what they've been told and what they have come to believe. They will have identified themselves with that pasted, taped photo on the mirror. And so I want you all to understand that if you are to overcome SLDD and find the codependency cure, which is self-love abundance, it's important to recognize that maybe who you think you are, the bad stuff, is not really you. Maybe who you think you are, the good stuff, is not really you. That somewhere along the line, after years and years of covert and maybe overt indoctrination, manipulation, you've adopted these narratives about yourself so that you can not only feel safe in a relationship, in other words, not be abandoned, deal with your core shame and pathological loneliness, all of the other stuff I talk about in my book and other videos, and be safe in a relationship and have the narcissist love you and to believe that you love him or her. So I say to you guys, it's time to take the taped picture off the mirror and be courageous enough to look at it. And the best way I can say this to you is to read you a portion of my book, The Fake Photo on the Mirror Trick. Your narcissist's perception of you has always been skewed to their liking, or even worse, to their need. If they recognize and verbally affirm your beauty, they will more than likely claim it as another of their well-deserved and highly coveted trophies. Your, quote, claimed beauty became their prized compliment-inducing possession that, at best, would make them temporarily happy with themselves. It's time you became aware of the gaslighters' primary tricks of the trade. This has been used to turn you against yourself, all the while keeping you under their thumb. They knew if you saw the true and natural inner beauty The resulting self-esteem and self-love would foil their diabolical plans to achieve control over you. Little did you know, early in your relationship, they swap out your psychological mirror with the one that had a fake photo glued to it. It's a sad truth that the pathetic and unlovable person in the mirror who you have always identified with was never you. The image you have mistakenly but understandably believed was the real you had been doctored to reflect only the narcissist implanted narrative. It's time for you to hear the truth, and please hear it clearly. The person you have always hoped you were actually exists. The reflection you see, which you regularly look at with disgust, disappointment, and shame, is not and never was you. In fact, it isn't even a reflection at all. The gaslighter's insatiable need to be the most beautiful person in your world has resulted in their calculated decision to commandeer your mirrors. They have always been threatened by your inner and outer beauty because it is in direct opposition to the despicable image of themselves, their personality disordered mind conveniently removed from their conscious mind. Hence, they gaslit you into accepting the shamefully ugly photo version of you in place of your mirror's honest and accurate reflection. Through the despicable fake photo on the mirror trick, they have effectively contorted your face into unflattering proportions or reduced it into a collection of hard-to-look-at imperfections. An important step towards your self-love abundance, your codependency cure, requires you to metaphorically throw away that hijacked, broken mirror and invest in one that accurately reflects your perfectly imperfect, beautiful self. It might take time to recognize the excellence in what you see. Take as much time as you need. Anything as good as self-love abundance is worth the difficult healing and recovery work and the time necessary to reach it. I want you to step up to your nearest mirror. Once in front of it, recite the following statements. The reflection I see is 100% true. It's all me. I will allow myself to see what my true reflection is and withhold any judgment of it. I verify and accept this imperfect reflection as my true and accurate self. If my mirror should reflect a not good enough or shameful image, I will reject it, walk away, and shake the narcissist gaslit photo out of my head. When I am ready, I will return to my mirror and absorb the reflection without judgment. I will allow myself to gaze upon unrecognized and unappreciated perfection and, maybe for the first time, see the person I always was but was never allowed to see. I will allow myself to consider I am and always have been beautiful. And lastly, I will learn to love myself as I need it more than anything. So in closing, thank you once again for watching this video. I hope that it further inspires you to break free from your self-love deficit disorder, your codependency, and to fight for your birthright, self-love abundance, and to seek what you always deserve, that the narcissist will do anything and everything to sabotage. Become your self-abundant self. Be well. If you like this video, please subscribe. There is I believe it's on the left or the right side, a little subscribe button. And consider going to Self-Love Recovery Institute's website, selfloverecovery.com, to look at my full-length educational self-help resources. Be well. Bye-bye.